Blade of the Immortal is a 2017 Japanese action movie based on the anime of the same name. The story follows two characters. Manji, aka the 100 Killer, is a samurai who's famous for killing 100 men single-handedly. At the end of that famous battle, he's saved from death's doorstep by an old crone who gives him the curse of immortality. Rin is the daughter of a sword master. After seeing her father and mother murdered in front of her eyes by a band of powerful mercenaries, she recruits Manji to help her get revenge. So I never saw the anime that this movie was based on, and I didn't even know it was based on an anime. I ended up watching it and only found out it was based on an anime after the fact. Watching it, I was like, man, this is a really anime kind of movie. The designs are crazy and super over the top and weird, and the fight scenes are really weird, and wow, this is super stylish. I've never seen a movie that feels so much like an anime. As always, let's start with the good. I think the reason to watch this movie, frankly, is the fight scenes. I mean, it's an excuse to watch crazy, over-the-top, cool fight scenes. There's a couple of fight scenes where Manji ends up fighting huge groups of enemies, just massive groups of dudes. They're all coming at him, and he's just hacking and slashing and going nuts and skewering dudes in the face, and like, those are awesome. Another great aspect of the movie for sure is the designs. I mean, there's just some really cool visual designs, visual elements, all based on anime characters. So the clothing is ridiculous, a lot of primary colors, the hairstyles are insane, the weapon choices are also kind of insane, but you know, it keeps things interesting. But I think the glue that really holds this movie together is the performance from the actress who plays Rin, the young girl who hires Manji to go kill all these guys for her and get revenge. Her performance is really honest. It's really believable as this young girl who just doesn't know what she is gonna do. Let's move on to the bad. So I think the biggest problem with this movie is the pacing. Really, it's the second act, because this movie's based on an anime. You can tell that they really loved the anime from the costumes and the designs. Almost seem like they're one-to-one taken from the anime, which is cool, and I appreciate that. But here's the problem. They clearly wanted to keep all of the main bad guys from the show in the movie, and what that meant is that they had to jam-pack too many characters and too many fights in too small amount of time. You have this weird situation where you introduce a bad guy, you get a bit of their backstory, they have a fight, and then the bad guy's gone, and then repeat. And so the second act is just sort of very repetitive. And even though the fights are different and the situations are different, it just feels really samey after a while, and the pacing really suffers. My second big problem is that the bad guys are stupid. I mean, not the designs and not their skill set. They're really powerful, and that's cool, but I mean, their plan is stupid. And that's not really what the movie's about. I mean, at the beginning, the bad guys do something, and then it turns into a revenge plot. So the bad guy's plan is sort of irrelevant. But the bad guy's plan is actually just stupid and doesn't make any sense. The last thing that I think is really bad about this movie is that it's one of those movies that introduces an idea or plot point or plot thread, and then it kind of explains it, and then it just sort of wanders away into the wilderness and never addresses it. It never explains it. Like, the movie just ends, and it's like, wait, what about that? But wasn't that a thing? Are we not going to address that? Like, I'm guessing they're going to do a sequel or something. And let's round it up with the boring. I think that, there's a lot in this movie that is just kind of there. There's a ton of cliche. If you've seen any samurai movies, you're going to recognize the, studio lot backgrounds of these sort of Japanese villages and whatever. Like, nothing surprising there. The music is also kind of whatever. It's not bad, it's not good. It's just sort of there, and it works, and that's great. I realized at a certain point that Manji is basically just Wolverine. I mean, he has Wolverine's super healing. He can't die, but he just sort of takes damage and he feels it and it's painful, and then he heals back up really quickly. And instead of claws, he has samurai swords, like a lot of samurai swords. So that's cool. Like, it's fun. But the problem is that every fight devolves into him just taking damage and just slashing at dudes. It's like, it feels like it's less skillful and it's just all about him abusing his, no damage hacks or whatever. It's like he just, put in the cheat code and he can just take damage infinitely. So he just walks up and slashes dudes who can't take damage infinitely. And so he just sort of cheats and wins every fight because he has a ridiculous advantage. With all that being said, my final rating for Blade of the Immortal is going to be a 7 out of 10. So yeah, this is a brainless action movie. It's super over the top and ridiculous, and I think it's pretty good. It's a pretty good movie for an anime adaptation. I mean, I've seen some really bad anime adaptations. Death Note, anybody? So I think this is a good movie. It's not amazing, but for a brainless action movie, it's just a revenge thriller plot. It's like, cool. Yeah, I'm down. I want to see some over-the-top samurai action. Why not? With a little bit of weird mutant powers mixed in there. Cool. That sounds like a thing I always wanted to see. And so, yeah, it's worth watching. It's not amazing, but, if you're bored and you want to watch something totally brainless that you haven't seen before, I'd recommend this one. Thanks so much for watching my review of Blade of the Immortal. If you guys like the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.